Hello, everybody, and welcome to our spoiler-filled review discussion of Pokemon Detective Pikachu. My name's Dylan Blunt. Joining me to discuss the Pika Pika is Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here to talk about The Great Mouse Detective 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh my god, again with this. No. And Shree Schroeder.
Hello! I'm also excited to talk about Detective Pikachu.
Pikachu, yes.
Yeah.
So, Detective Pikachu was directed by Rob Letterman, written by Dan Denanders, Benny Sammet, Rob Letterman, Derek Connolly, and Nicole Perlman helped out with the story as well. And it was based on about 10 other people's works on and created by the Pokemon Company and so on and so forth. So, your last and final spoiler warning. This whole thing is a spoiler cast. There is no spoiler-free section. If you want our spoiler-free thoughts, go listen to Arcade Couch from this week. Episode 27 or 8. I can't remember. Before we dive in, let's get everyone's overall thoughts on the movie. I reviewed the movie for ExplosionNetwork.com and I gave it an 8 out of 10, saying there's some pacing issues and the plot is seemingly written backwards, but the world, this Pokemon world that director Rob Letterman and the art and animation team have crafted is an utter joy to experience. I think it is a lot of fun. It's really adorable. It's basically my childhood on the screen. So I think I score it like a little bit above what people who don't have, I wouldn't say nostalgia, but like an attachment to the franchise, I guess. But I don't think that detracts, you know. So it's like maybe if you don't have an attachment, it's not going to, the emotional beats won't hit as hard. But I think that's okay because that's the true story of any movie, depending on like if you have an attachment, emotional attachment to certain things characters are going through and so on and so forth. But I really liked it. Ash, what did you think?
Yeah, I liked it. It was pretty solid. Like you mentioned in your review, there were plot and pacing issues that kind of held it back, and then the twist at the end just sort of left me flat, I think, as well. And just the overall ending, I think the third act, like the reasoning behind all that kind of left me feeling a bit down on the film, but overall pretty good.
I think we'll discuss the twist ending as its own sort of thing, because I guess that's one of the key things about this movie I've seen a lot of people either loving or just being okay with or straight up hating. I've seen some people write online. So, Shree, what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I'm coming newer into the franchise, and it was exciting. There was like highs and lows, but overall I would give it similar score to you. I think an 8 out of 10. Yeah.
Was there anything you disliked? What were the things you disliked or things that you didn't like?
Yeah, like one of the things I disliked was about the ending of the story. So again, like we'll just leave it. But most of it I think was very solid. I think, you know, if you're going into it, just watch it as a Pokemon movie and just like take in like all the little joys that you want to and not be so like analytical on anything, I think you'll walk away like very happy. Well, it's super enjoyable.
I think it's obviously a kid's movie, straight up and for fun, and I think that's I think they were designing as a kids movie, and that's why the plot for people who are trying to like, we're trying to look at it as this thing. It's like, it's a fucking, it's go digest some of the plots of the Pokemon anime series and you'll be like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. But it's like, it's still got the same sort of silliness and tone to it. But my thing with like saying it was written backwards is like to say that they figured out what the twist quotation marks, I guess, of the end is going to be, and then they kind of wrote everything backwards from there so it all makes sense by the time they get to the twist ending, I guess, if you know what I'm, that's why I kind of felt like it was written backwards. But all right, before we dive into that a bit more, I think the one thing that everyone can agree on who watches this movie is that the best thing about the movie is that they wholeheartedly succeed in bringing Pokemon to the live action format. I haven't really seen anyone say otherwise or really argue otherwise, I guess. Like it's I find it hard to argue that they failed in the front of bringing the Pokemon to the big screen. So let's talk about the design of the Pokemon themselves, as well as Rhyme City. Are you happy with the designs and the way they did it? And was the city as much fun as we hoped it would be? Because of course, going into it, I know people start seeing pictures of Charizard and it's like, oh, what's he looks a bit funny. People start seeing these pictures of Mr. Mime and they're like, oh, he looks a bit scary. And then, Licking Tongue in trailers, and people were like,
perfect.
People were having some problems with the designs. I've seen a couple people on Twitter and stuff complain still and say they don't look cartoony enough. I personally think they made them look as realistic as you could make walking, talking, weird creatures look without looking completely absurd and not like they would actually work in a real world setting, I guess, if this place was real. Ash, how do you feel?
Yeah, overall they were all good. There was nothing that stood out as bad, I don't think. Yeah, they're all pretty much as lifelike as I could imagine being. Just maybe some of them were only there for a second, so it's hard to say, but a lot of the ones that were featured of it prominently looked very good. So I've got no issues. Yeah, nothing really springs to mind as being an issue.
Mm-hmm. So. I'd say my only real issue would be that although I think they all look great, I definitely feel like Pikachu had the most effort put into him, and some of the other ones that are like only on screen for a couple seconds or something, you can tell they obviously haven't had as much work put into them as wholly as like your Pikachu or your Psyduck or your Mr. Mime.
That makes sense.
It does make sense, but I at times it does, like, you can kind of tell, it's like, well, they're the C team of Pokemon, I guess, these sorts of things. But yeah, overall, I thought it was, Shree, how do you feel about the designs and stuff?
Yeah, I think everything looked awesome. One thing that I was kind of waiting for throughout the movie was I was hoping that Pikachu wasn't going to stay like perfect looking for the whole film. And there was a point where I was thinking, okay, like he should look a little bit less perfect now.
Oh, do you mean like dirty?
And then, like a bit more roughed up. And then he eventually did get to that point, which... Spoilers. So I was really, really happy with that they didn't kind of stick to the everything should be perfect all the time situation. I think everything looked really cool. I'm just trying to think like what was I think Pikachu obviously did look really good. I think I actually really liked the way that Chari looked, because I just think that it's representing what he actually is. And yeah, the Bulbas looked awesome. I think they all looked so good.
The funny thing about the designs and everything in this, it's funny because I've recently heard other people saying similar things to this, is I walked out of this movie, I walked into it going, Pikachu's cute, can't wait to see Pikachu, all these other Pokemon, Bulbasaur looks cute in the trailer, whatever. And I walked out going, who might have been the cutest Pokemon in that movie? Psyduck. And I don't like Psyduck in the games at all, but for some reason since watching this,
his personality.
I think so. It's something, because after leaving this movie, I'm like, I love the way he looked. I love I don't know if it was he or she. I love the way that Psyduck looked in this movie, and I loved the just the whole character of it. And going in, I was just like, fuck. All I can think about is Psyduck is from the anime TV show where it'll just burst out of Misty's fucking Pokeball and goes, and then Misty will be like, you fucking motherfucker. Get back in your ball.
Yeah. It's funny how much you like this character now that it isn't getting berated every time it comes out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, to be fair, its eyes aren't like creepy as fuck either. Like that's one of the main things in the animated show, that it just looks creepy. It just looks creepy.
No, Psyduck's always been great.
Psyduck, also has one of the funniest moments with the thing in the back seat with him. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. It's just Pikachu, because he's in a high chair thing in that car. Yeah. So straight away, that's funny.
What, in the car seat?
In the car seat. He's in the car seat. That's straight away funny. And then Psyduck's next to him asking for a fucking foot massage. That's hilarious. And then when they rotate out of the car, how Psyduck ends up in a like a baby car. What do you call it? Like a baby carry
Baby Bjorn
backpack baby
backpack
carrier,
thing.
yeah.
Like Psyduck ends up one of those. I was like, oh, this is so funny between the baby seat and the baby carrier and all this sort of stuff. All of that was great. Anyway, I don't know if that counts as do the designs of the Pokemon look good, but the design of Psyduck works so much that I suddenly am now a hashtag Psyduck fan for sure. That's what I have to say. There were several. Number one reason I really need to see it again is because there's also just like so much like Rhyme City and the first couple sequences that you get when Tim gets to Rhyme City, and they kind of just have that montage of taking you through the streets and all these sorts of things. I've seen people talk about seeing Pokemon in the back like of corners and somewhere. I'm like, I didn't see that. I need to see it again, and I need to be like, can we pause it? Yell up to the like projectionist or something like that, so I can like scan the screens and stuff like that, because apparently there's a lot more Pokemon just stuck in the back corners there and so on and so forth. That
I'm looking at this GameSpot article. It says there's 55 Pokemon.
Yeah, I was really surprised actually, based on the trailer the trailers that we saw. Obviously, we got a good glimpse of a fair few of the main ones, but then I was really surprised, especially in that scene where you actually saw so many different types of Pokemon. Like even opening the movie when that Pidgeotto comes in, like at the beginning of the movie, and I'm just like, this is so cool. This is so cool. That was like what was first got me excited at the beginning of the movie. And then like you see the Dodrio like walking around in the field and stuff. I'm like, oh, I was pretty excited.
I thought it was a Taurus in the field or something, or maybe it was Dodrio.
Yeah, it like came out like straight away. It was like right at the start. So cool.
Yeah, all that stuff at the start. I think I kind of like the way it opens because I went in pretty much because I remember when the first trailer came out, I was like, I want to be excited, but I have no faith. And I wasn't willing to get, and I think justifiably I could feel that way. And so then once more trailers start coming out, obviously the last month leading up to this, I was all aboard the Pikachu hype train. But even if you wasn't sold and I still had some like, I don't know, like can Pokemon work as a live action thing? That opening first 5 minutes, or just that sweeping shot of the Pidgeotos, whatever. I couldn't actually tell which one they were, but them flying in and then the field of Pokemon and whatever else. I'm like, oh, it does work. Like that was all I needed really. And I'm like, that kind of sold me on the whole thing. For Rhyme City itself, which I love because it's like this Neo Tokyo kind of city, and I guess, and it's
kind of.
At least the main section where his dad lives, that we kind of spend a little bit of the time. I guess there's lots of signs and
neon lights
and stuff. Everything happening everywhere. Because our first Pokemon movie, we get this city where no one battles or captures Pokemon, but the payoff and the switch for that, I guess, is that we do get Rhyme City, in which you get to see all these Pokemon just walking around and about with people, because that's what the city's about. These like people living in tandem. But the trade-off is that we don't get battles apart from that one underground battle, which wasn't really a proper battle. It's like walking in and seeing like a fucking
it was like
UFC.
A cage fight.
It was like a cage fight happening in the background. Yeah, it's like it wasn't proper battling, and we only get that one part at the start with the Pokeball trying to catch the Cubone, which I really don't like the opening in this movie at all. I say that I think I can't remember the actor's name, but his friend I found really weird and just off-putting, and he was the only actor in the whole movie, and I say this in my review, it was the only actor in the whole movie that just felt like he was aware and like he was doing a skit about Pokemon. It to me, I'm like, oh, you're doing an SNL skit about Pokemon is what he the way he was acting. He didn't feel right for that role at all, or something about it. It was just completely off. And I just felt like the opening scene, the only reason I had that opening scene really is to sell the whole like, oh, he doesn't like Pokemon, but then they're like, oh, we also want to give you a look at least how a Pokeball works and these sorts of things, but then blah 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 blah. I would have much preferred it to just nearly have opened with him on the train, like after the Mewtwo thing, cut to the train or something like that, and he's just you get the gist, like his son's on the way, you can hear the phone call over a montage or something like that. I personally found that whole opening scene rather just weird pacing wise, and it put me off. But I guess
no, I liked it.
Liked it.
I thought it obviously it appeals to people who played the game And I just thought there were some good gags in there, even if you didn't think it was maybe a bit over the top. Just the lonely Cubone, help set up Tim's character being compared to Cubone.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
They both got dead mums, so
this is true. That was a good joke, actually, but it was weird. It was weird to acknowledge as the first joke in like the kids' movie. Cubone wears its mum's dead skull on his face. That's an interesting choice. How do you feel about the Rhyme City decision, though? I guess as the first Pokemon movie we get is one where it skips on stuff that is like obviously the most famous stuff from the show and the games and everything. Gyms, battling, capturing the Pokemon. They take out everything that kind of makes up what people would consider Pokemon, like the core elements, I guess, and take it away. I have no problem personally. Did anyone think it was weird or like a bad or a weird choice or?
No, I think like it also leaves it open for if they want to do something on the opposite scale, which is the stuff that everyone does know and love about Pokemon, being the battling and all that sort of stuff, that if they go on to create more movies, it leaves it wide open to go down a completely different route, whereas this was really cool because it was just kind of getting to see all the Pokemon and a real good introduction. I feel personally, I don't feel like it took away from anything, and I feel like when it actually goes to the scene with the battling, I actually think that was awesome. Like that was one of my favorite moments. Because it kind of concentrated it, instead of it having like all throughout the movie, the actual decision to make it kind of like, black market type of underground thing. I feel like it actually made more impact in the scene. And the Pokemon they used in that's one of my favorite things.
The reason I didn't really care, like I had no problem with that scene overall, but the reason I don't really count that scene as us getting a proper glimpse what battling would be like is because it's not the whole like you choose 3 Pokemon, I'll choose 3 Pokemon. They're throwing them out. Course, they're yelling attacks. They're the whole thing. Use quick attack now. Blah blah. Like it wasn't a like what I would consider a proper battle. We just the cage fight is the way.
Yeah, of course. But it was kind of just like here's like this little bit of what but like I just think that it saves if they want to do more of that stuff for a different movie. It gives them the opportunity, and it was not really like what the movie was about, really. So,
Ash?
I don't feel like it was necessary,
Yeah, it makes sense because one, it's set in a city, and you want to have Pokemon there. So, if you had trainers running around trying to catch Pokemon in a city, none of the Pokemon would stay there because they don't want to capture them. Mm-hmm. And then, if you did go the other way, then you would have a city with no Pokemon in it, which would be boring.
The opposite.
I mean, when you look at any of the games, there's barely any Pokemon in the actual cities. So
no, unless when they're in the wild and they're on a it's like in reality. And I do when we get to the end of this, I want to extrapolate on this a little bit more. But in reality, if they're doing a Pokemon like Red Blue or Ash Ketchum movie or whatever they have you like a proper trainer one, it's like a road movie. They're going they're starting in a small town presumably, and they're going to make a trip across somewhere, and they're going to it's a road trip. Okay, so let's get into the plot.
Also, I don't think that would work in a movie, like the capturing things and that sort of thing. I don't know how that would play.
The only
it's like capturing animals in the wild. I don't know.
The only way I see it happening and how I kind of thought, but like, okay, I'll save my thoughts to later because we'll do some speculating later. I'll keep my thoughts to then. It has to do with this though.
The plot for this movie, I would say, is relatively simple from the base point. You have a couple of main characters. You have Justice Smith as Tim Goodman, who, after hearing about his father's death, comes to Rhyme City to see to his father's affairs. And in the city, he meets Detective Pikachu himself, who is played by Ryan Reynolds, who also plays his dad later. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Spoilers.
Oh, what?
Then there is Catherine Newton as the budding journalist Lucy Stevens, Ken Watanabe as Lieutenant Hyde Yoshida, Chris Gere as Roger Clifford, the son of Bill Nighy's character Howard Clifford, who was the creator of Rhyme City. So, starting with Tim, did we enjoy Tim's story and what I think is a very kind of paint by numbers, but for me works family-orientated film about a father-son relationship. Because really, when you boil it down, it is a story that's kind of been told several times over about like the son who like grew apart from his dad, and then they have to reconnect. You know, like we've seen this type of story done before, but we haven't obviously seen it done with the twist of
with Pokemon.
His dad was in Pikachu like the entire time, and he comes out. So so if you want to get into it now, Ash, how did you feel about the plot overall? How did you feel about Justice Smith as Tim? And then you can get into your feelings about the twist, I guess.
Yeah, he was fine. He did a serviceable job. I mean, he was funny at points. He's sort of charming, I guess. But again, that backstory was sort of cookie cutter. We've seen it 100 times before. It just felt, especially the first half hour, it felt very exposition heavy, I think. There was a lot of explaining everything about his history and everything. But yeah, my major, just the twist, I feel like, obviously the guy we thought we could all trust, the guy played by Bill Nye, is suddenly the bad guy all along. And his big plan is he wants to get in the body of Mewtwo.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wants to put everybody else's bodies in Pokemon for some reason.
To make the world a better place. In his mind.
In his mind, yes. I guess.
It's that force human evolution is what he thought it was.
But no.
Well, no. But that's
but no.
but that's what he thought he was doing. Yeah.
That's what the movie was.
How do you with the twist with Ryan Reynolds and as the dad and stuff? Why doesn't that work for you? Why does it not? Like,
it just sort of doesn't make sense. I guess why didn't he have his memories and that sort of thing? And then why could he only talk to Tim? And then, honestly, part of me is just disappointed I'm not going to get a second film.
Literally what you just said is why I think 9 out of 10 people are disappointed about the twist. Is because they're like, fuck, because that means we're not getting Detective Pikachu 2 with Ryan Reynolds playing Pikachu anymore. I think that subconsciously, even if people don't know it, that's why they're annoyed about the twist. It's like, damn, I'm annoyed. Why are you annoyed? Because he can't be Pikachu anymore. Because the damn two taken out of the body.
Mewtwo's not coming back. He's not going to do it again.
Mewtwo could come back, but with the twist of like Ryan Reynolds being in the body the entire time and these sorts of things. As for why he can hear him, I think I wrote that away as when Tim first snips the the chemical, whatever it is. When he first sniffs that in the apartment and he gets like a big whiff of it before he sets it all off on the APOMs. He's the only human character in the whole movie who actually like ingests some of that and doesn't like get switched into a Pokemon. So
that was one of my biggest. I'm gonna like interject here because that was one of my only main things. Was he seems to like get totally gassed by this stuff, but there's gas going off right, left, and center for the rest of the movie, and for some reason, no other human, like Lucy's walking through the crowd and stuff. Don't let your Pokemon inhale the gas. She's just like obviously
the guy in the street cage fight smashed all of them.
Yeah,
on himself.
And he was fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's one thing that really bothered me. But anyway, continue.
I honestly, just given the franchise and the weird stuff I've seen happen in episodes, the games, the movies, and everything, I was willing just to go. He sniffed the gas. He interacts with Pikachu. They're fucking. I don't care. I'll fan write it in my head that because they're related, the chemical causes like that. The switched for them. I honestly don't think it's really that important to know why he can hear him at all. Not for this type of movie. And by this type, I don't mean like but Pokemon blah blah. I just mean it's a kids movie, and the first and forefront. And I don't think not explaining why he can understand him is really a plot hole that's important. It's just a thing that happens. I don't really care.
But then if he can understand, well, I guess it's because he's got the mind of a person. Never mind. I was like, why couldn't he understand any other Pokemon? But
as for why his dad, I guess, doesn't have his memories, his dad was killed or basically near death is how I took it. Like his body's went in the car crash. From what I understood, either he was dead or so close to death that he was just about to die. and then Mewtwo takes his soul or whatever out of it, and then because he was basically nearly dead, and by the time I just took it because he was dead or nearly dead. That's why I explained that off. Because people make the argument, well, why doesn't anyone else lose their memories when they get put into Pokemon? And I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But no one else was dead or nearly dead, apart from his dad.
Another question.
Don't care.
Where did the bodies go?
What bodies?
The human bodies.
I don't know.
Get squished into the Pokemon.
I've seen people try and work this out as well. They're like, how does the bodies fit in there?
Ryan Reynolds comes at the end of the movie. He's perfectly fine, not a scratch on him.
Yeah, but we're talking about the fucking Pokemon franchise where they literally throw a ball at a Pokemon. The Pokemon will then turn into energy and get sucked up into the Pokeball. And for years that the franchise existed, everyone goes, what happens to the Pokemon in the Pokeball? What are they doing? What are they existing in there? Are they aware of what's going on in the Pokeball? All these sorts of questions. Everyone's okay with that. But the second a human gets turned into the same sort of energy that Pokemon gets turned into and put inside a Pokemon, everyone's like, oh, that can't work. That's outrageous. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Where's the ball? Where's the mechanics?
Fucking, yeah, it doesn't. My point being, everyone's questioning certain things, but the Pokemon thing, the Pokeball technology, that's okay. That makes perfect sense. If you're willing to just look at the Pokeball thing and go, I don't really need an explanation for that because it's very necessary for this franchise to run as a whole, then the fact that Mewtwo can do a very, basically what I took as the exact sort of similar technique that Pokeballs do and turn the Pokemon into energy and put them into Pokeballs. Mewtwo does that and puts a human into a Pokemon. And if at that moment your mind goes, well, psychologically, how could someone survive and where do they fit inside that Pokemon? Then maybe don't watch the movie because I think that's reading too far into a franchise that doesn't even answer the question of really.
A lot of stuff.
I mean, they have dabbled in it somewhat. But it's like, what the fuck do Pokemon do in Pokeballs, really? And how does that all work? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. Sheree, how do you feel about all this? The dad twist, the fucking Pokemon, whatever.
Mean, I kind of just put the, I guess the communication between, him and his dad down to the fact that obviously it was I put it down to the father-son.
Yeah, the family.
Bond. And that, that's what Mewtwo just decided was that they could talk to each other basically. But I mean, maybe. my biggest thing is I don't like Catherine Newton as an actress. I personally don't like her. Anything I watch her in.
Ooh.
That's big words because I think me and Ash are fans of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I personally don't I was watching something with her in it again the other day, and I was just like, God, every time I see her, she just I just don't like her acting style. That's just me personally. So, one of my biggest things in the film is that she didn't do anything for me because I just personally don't enjoy watching her in anything.
Well, you're wrong because she's been in some of the best movies and TV shows the last couple of years.
Yeah, she didn't do much for me either.
Well, no, pause. I don't think she's very good in this movie. But as an actress, I will stick up for her. She's in Big Little Liars. She's in Blockers. She's in
Three Billboards Outside Missouri.
Lady Bird.
Lady Bird.
Thank you very much, Ash. All right, back on your high horse. Continue, Shree.
Paranormal Activity 4.
She was the main girl in that. That was all right, though. Yeah. Yeah, that's the first thing I saw her in.
Oh, okay, that's a pass, whatever. So yeah, I personally don't like her, so I don't think she really did much for me in the film. And I didn't really have too many plot issues. My main thing was towards the end when all of a sudden everyone just gets switched back from being a Pokemon. It's like, yeah, it's all fixed. Everything's fine. Everything's happy, which kind of goes along with the fact that it is a children's film. But then you do have the other twists at the end, which I think do save it. And I mean, I think we can all agree that when he does see his dad at the train station and it's Ryan Reynolds, that he looks damn good. I think everyone can agree.
It was a nice suit. Yeah. It's a snappy dresser.
Why he has such an old son, who knows? But you just got
yeah, I was going to say.
He's currently got
a
3-year-old.
How old is he?
Well, how old's Ryan Reynolds? Like fucking 40 something?
No, but he has like a 3-year-old or something now, doesn't he?
What? No, his wife's what's her name is pregnant currently. But that's like Ryan Reynolds is like 40, right? Or so,
oh god, he's 43.
Yeah, but Justice Smith is 20.
42.
His character is meant to be 21, so he would have had the kid at like 20 something. That makes sense.
So anyway,
wow,
that was a horse. I was fine with the twist, I guess, because I think they steered away from the bit that I didn't like, which was just everyone's all happy and it's all fixed and it's magical. And I was like, if they're seriously going to end the movie like this, I'll be really disappointed. But then it kind of like, as Pikachu says in the movie, that's a twist. That's really twisty. Yeah. And it was really twisty. He wasn't wrong.
I will say there's 2 twists I like in the film. One, that Mewtwo was not a bad guy, which I think was pretty much played on everybody's expectations, especially from the first Pokemon movie, the first animated Pokemon movie.
And then the trailers.
And the trailers as well. But then the other one was the Ditto reveal. That was great. I'm like, damn, that makes so much sense.
As for Catherine Newton-Lucy, I don't think the character was too interesting. She was... I think they kind of failed her character. Like she was...
backtracking.
Not backtracking. You said stuff, and I didn't say anything because I was letting you finish. It's how the conversation works. She was okay when she was introduced. I liked her set up as this like journalist that wants to break a big story or whatever. I liked her Psyduck. I liked the relationship she has with her Psyduck and all these sorts of things. But then by the end of the movie, she kind of just got reduced to love interest in a corner, or like potential love interest in a corner, because by the end where she's like, you're gonna get the show, or write up this piece or whatever it is for the news job. We never actually see that. It's just like, oof. Now that the movie's towards its end, fuck her if we're never gonna see her ever again after that scene. So it kind of felt like at the end she kind of just got pushed aside. I would have liked to have seen. I think one of my biggest problems with the movie is the ending just kind of happens really fucking fast. It's like, and back crash, we're into the ending, because I needed another scene with her and Tim. I needed a longer scene between Tim and his dad to really like drive home the emotional resonance that could have, the fact that he was with his dad this entire time. And
no, I think that the train station scene covered that. I feel like
I personally wanted more, because
I don't need more.
It's like this was like at this core of this movie, it's like he's like, you think that he's building up this relationship with this Pokemon, right? Because the movie starts and it's Tim being like, I don't need a Pokemon. I don't want a friend. I don't want this Pokemon to be my friend, blah, blah, blah. And he starts off really not liking Pikachu. And then by the end of the movie, he's saying, I want Pikachu. I want Pikachu to be my partner. He's saying, Pikachu, you're my partner. And suddenly him and his Pikachu have bonded. But then when it's realized to be his father, then when you look back at the whole movie, it is now a story of this child and his father going from not wanting to like be with one another to, by the end, they've spent this entire time bonding together. And like, that's what the whole movie is. So I personally
wasn't his father though.
Fucking hell.
It was an amalgamation of him and the Pikachu.
I just felt I needed a little bit more time for the ending, because it just felt like the ending came up really fucking fast. It was like kind of going over a hill, and then as soon as you reach the top, there was fucking a roadblock at the top that said ending, and they're like, holy shit, put on a handbrake, we're gonna slam into this ending really fast. And then the Bill Nighy was all right in the movie. That's the thing. I don't think the villain was.
I was surprised he was in it.
I remember reading
any of the advertising.
I remember reading he was in it when they, like a year ago or whatever, and I was going, I wonder who he's going to play. And I thought he was going to, I just assumed he'd play like fucking some billionaire or something, which turned out to be correct, I guess. Talking about the tie-ins and the connections to the original Pokemon movie, but also anything else that we've kind of spotted in it that's Easter eggy and these types of things. I think the most interesting thing about this movie is Mewtwo, because Mewtwo firstly, they mentioned that this is 20 years after Mewtwo was first spotted in the Kanto lab, or however they word it in this thing, which fits it exactly 20 years after the original Pokemon animated movie, which is like, oh, does that mean that this is connected to the original animated movie, or are they just trying to throw that out as an Easter egg? So then when you're trying to look at a potential Pokemon movie universe, I guess it's like, is this is this movie connected to the, like the rest of the show and everything like that, or are they just like throwing it out that this is set 20 years after, where like if they're following the same sort of story, this is 20 years after Ash met Mewtwo and stuff. So if they ever introduced Ash in this world, potentially in future movies, Ash would be like 30 something. Yeah, I guess. So that's kind of what you're looking at. And then there's obviously a lot of cool Easter eggs, like in Tim's room, you've got these battle posters from Kanto and Sinnoh, like tournaments and whatever else going on. I'm mental blanking on their names. I think, is it in Bill Nye's
Sinnoh.
Yeah, the Sinnoh, he's got like the Dialga and stuff, like statues and stuff in his office.
The Rayquaza on his wall and stuff.
Yeah, Tim's got Rayquaza on his wall and stuff like that. But yeah, so there's lots of references to obviously Pokemon stuff, and then also the animated TV show. I don't know, like the thing that I spotted first was obviously you got references to the police force with the in the opening thing. You've got the Growlithe walking along with the police officers. Although I was wondering going into, I'm like, are we ever going to see a Pokemon Center or like I don't think whenever they turn this into and we do see like a Pokemon Center or whatever, what have you, I don't think the idea of all these duplicate like Nurse Jennies and Officer Jenny, Nurse Joy, all that sort of stuff is going to like really work in a live action. It's just a bit too silly, I guess. Somewhat. I don't want to say. I don't know. Like you could, I suppose. It just depends. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And in this, they just kind of hint at with the police force sort of stuff with that. Then there's obviously the Squirtle Squad stuff reference, which was good. You got the Jigglypuff.
Needed sunglasses.
Yeah, they didn't need to see sunglasses. Then you got the Jigglypuff, who I was hoping after you see her getting the angry face at the person who's fallen asleep while the singing's happening, that they would cut back and would have seen like on the person's face like this textured drawn face or something all over him. That would have been...
that would be too obvious.
Yeah, but just in the background, like not straight like close up, but just like a shot in the background you could spot like
but
a
it's
face
not the
drawn.
same Jigglypuff. I'm sure not all Jigglypuffs do
but
that.
maybe it is Ash.
I guess
We don't know. It could be. We don't actually know. Yeah, I don't know. Was there any other references or fun things that you've noticed to anything or little tidbits, those sorts of things? Or what do you think of the Mewtwo thing being set 20 years after the original movie? Does that actually matter, or is that just a fun kind of throwaway little bit of information?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. I don't think it's going to add too much to canon. I don't think too many people are thinking, oh, it's the exact same world as the animated world. And I mean, it's been like 20 years. Ash is still 10. So
yeah, I don't think that flies in the live action Pokemon universe.
No, it doesn't. People age in the real ones.
Last thing really want to talk about briefly, although it could be obviously its own very long video if you needed it to be, but where do we think that they will take the Pokemon franchise into like a universe, or do you think they're just going to want to do like Detective Pikachu 2, or like do you think they'll set up other franchises after this, or where do we think we're going? Because it's doing well at the box office. I think we could pretty much say that it's going to get at least a sequel, or another Pokemon movie will get greenlit at some point. It's definitely not failing money wise. The reviews have been mediocre at best, but I think that doesn't really matter because it's making money. So Ash, where would you want to see, or where do you think they could take the Pokemon world next?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to make another one. Just because obviously they've got all the designs, so that's one easy step to making more films. I think a Pokemon Snap movie would be cool, like a photographer just going around taking photos of Pokemon, like in the wild, that sort of thing. Just see more Pokemon in the wild.
Catherine Newton's character.
Maybe. She does stories on different Pokemons. Or she's hunting for some sort of special Pokemon for a story. And Psyduck is the sidekick.
I'd watch it.
And then
for Psyduck.
Justice Smith has a cameo.
Yeah.
With Ryan Reynolds, yeah.
Yeah.
There you
go. Shrey.
I think going back to like what we were saying about like can they adapt the original to live action with all the duplicate like Nurse Jennies and everything like that. I think it's possible. I think the reason why they didn't do it in this film is because it's a lot to begin with, and having a separate city gave them the flexibility to not have to do any of that stuff and just focus on the Pokemon and like introducing that side of it. I think that will definitely get more movies. I'd like to hope it's like a universe, but it's really going to depend where they go with the stories. I think they did balance out the fact that this is definitely targeted at, you know, a wide range of ages. It's I think they did it in a clever way that, you know, the plot isn't like hugely fulfilling. You know, it's not a Marvel film. Like, it's not fulfilling adults' hopes and dreams to be like, yes, like this is the film I wanted of this, like these heroes type thing. I think that they did well enough to please the nostalgia in the people who are older and love Pokemon. And I would like to think that going into the other movies, maybe they'll expand a bit more on that and stretch out the age bracket a little bit so it's not as young.
I just remember that I'd seen heaps of people on Twitter saying stuff like they'd been watching in the cinema, and they'd be like, shout out to the kid who was sitting next to me for every single Pokemon that came on screen would say to their mum or dad and be like, Bulbasaur, Charmander. That they had to like name them all for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. It's really endless of what they could do with it and what direction they want to take it. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they want to do. I mean, the ideal would be that at some point you're going to see Ryan Reynolds come back. My first thought was like maybe if they made another movie, it's going to be Ryan Reynolds, his son, and then they're going to go on some other new adventure. But you just don't know.
I think this is it for the Detective Pikachu for the point. And I think what I would like to personally see, and I think what most people would want to see, is obviously people are going to clamor for like Ash or something like that. But I think you just kind of take that general setup and that's a franchise of X amount of movies. So you make a protagonist, whatever. I think you have to age them up. So, you know, in the games or whatever, everyone leaves at the age of 10 or something. I don't think that works for a franchise. I think you have to age them up to be teenagers, like 16 or something like that. They'll be a lot more, I think they'll work a lot better for the audience. And then you just, obviously, much like the show, you get like two friends that they tag along in this adventure and they go on a road trip movie where along the way they bump into different people and they have to overcome different sorts of challenges and all these sorts of things. And that's 3 to 6 to however movies in my mind. They're slowly making their way to collect all the gym badges. Each movie they can get 2 or something like that, you know, and overcome different villains or Pokemon or whatever. I don't really know, because obviously you can make it up. It doesn't have to be based on any of the games, I don't think, and it doesn't have to have like Team Rocket or Team Aqua or whichever freaking team you want to chuck in here. But I think that core premise of just a trainer starting from their small town and then going on a road trip movie to capture all the Pokemon and become the very best, the best there is what most people want to see. And I think now that they've introduced the Pokemon world and like tested it with this sort of thing, then I think you could do it. Because the thing for this movie that helps introduce it is you do have a talking Pikachu. You have an English or like a human speaking Pikachu to help introduce the universe. And the hump they have to overcome with the next movie they do is going, all right, can we do an entire Pokemon movie where the Pokemon don't actually speak to the humans? Like, does that work? Because that's the next test, I guess. They had a safety net with this one.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
I agree.
I don't know if battling a road trip that the thing you pitch would work. I just don't think it I think people would lose interest. Like,
I think I think it will most likely be more of an adventure. There's like still it's not an ongoing thing like similar to the games. It's more, with this one where there's a main event, like there's a main story arc, but they could be leaving they could be leaving Rhyme City and going into other places, or discovering worlds that Pokemon aren't living together with humans and things like that. That's how I kind of see it happening.
I just think Pokemon at its core to me is the adventure. And like when I think about what Pokemon is in the show plus the games, it is about going on this road trip adventure with friends and whatever. That's like the core setup premise for me for when I think of Pokemon stories. And as much as I enjoyed this, I want some variation of the adventure, full-on adventure aspect to me. And I don't really care too much if it doesn't have all the gym badges and stuff like that, but obviously that's what I feel like a lot of people will want, and I'd be keen for that sort of movie as well. So I don't know, it'll be interesting. Obviously they could just never do that, but I feel like that's the movie that most people will want. Some sort of gym badge, Elite Four, fucking, some sort of thing like that. I've seen people wondering if you could actually do like Ash in an actual movie. I say no. I say if they're going to do the Pokemon trainer thing, then all new characters, all new setting, all new gym leaders, these sorts of things. I don't think trying to adapt the gym leaders or the Misty, Brock, Ash, all these sorts of things. I think eventually if they do over the next 5 to 10 years start building up a collection of these Pokemon movies, I think at some stage they could have like Ash eventually come in as a cool cameo for fans or something like that. But I think you can only do that after X amount of movies, and doing it in this one or the next one or even the one after would be way too early to be so heavily on the nose as a fan service kind of character coming in as Ash. And I think that's like definitely a way down the end. These movies is doing really well as a franchise standing on its own two legs. I know, and then being like, we know you kind of just want to see Ash. Here's our movie universe version of Ash. Here's what he's doing. He's living up in his house at age 32, chilling with all his trophies and whatever else.
I mean,
with nothing. With nothing, because he doesn't win.
He wins eventually, Ash.
No, he doesn't.
Spoilers, he does.
He always comes up short.
Season 64, he wins, I swear.
Well, I kind of saw this movie very similar in the way that I actually thought it was like a bit of an Ash and Misty duo thing. They kind of already had that set up between the two of them where, Misty normally has like a little bit more knowledge, and that's what Lucy has in the film of Pokemon and all those types of things. So I don't know. I kind of already got that I guess, vibe,
but
really.
As we were saying before, Misty is a bitch, and Lucy wasn't being, she was nice to her Pokemon. Does anyone have any last thoughts for this video podcast, whatever? Pokemon thing.
Thought it was really good, the film. I enjoyed it. I was very happy. It excited me. There was some Pokemon, even as like a new Pokemon fan, that I didn't even recognize. So I was like, ooh, I'm so excited to catch them. And I would like to point out one of the most important lines in the film, which is when Lucy is discussing about how she does the write-ups of the 10 top cute Pokemon. And then she's like, let's be real, they're all cute. So I think that's what we really just need to take away from this film. Is that
she writes for the BuzzFeed of the Pokemon universe.
It is the cuties, and they were cute. They didn't let us down.
They were. That's a movie poster quote if I've ever heard one.
There was a lot of tongues in this film.
There was. That was a very weird scene with that linking tongue.
Yeah.
Just get out.
But it's weird anyway.
It's
weird in any.
But then the Greninjas are holding them hostage with their tongues around their mouths.
The weirdest thing for me in the whole movie, if we're going what was weirder, is the Mr. Mime thing, because I'm like, they killed him.
The Mr. Mime thing was the best part of the film.
They killed him.
Yeah, they killed him in the Mind World. Yeah.
They cut right as he's like, I'm gonna drop this figurative match, and Mr. Mime's gonna figuratively burn to death in his cage of emotion. And they cut the scene away, and I couldn't help but sit there for the next 10 seconds just going, oh, Mr. Mime burnt to death, I guess.
Playing dead for the rest of his life, yeah.
I guess.
I think that's what they did really well as well. Like that whole scene was a lot more elaborate than what I expected it was going to be from the trailers. Like, I was hoping it wasn't kind of like, here's the funny bit of Mr. Mime, and that's all you're really going to get when you see the movie. But when it actually went in, it was like quite expanded, and funny bits that were in the trailers, it wasn't all that you were getting in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they did that really well. They kind of gave us enough of everything and didn't spoil too much of other stuff that we got.
Thank you for joining us on this review discussion, for which you can watch it at youtube.com/Explosion Network, or you can find it available as an audio podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and whatever else. Just search for review discussions by Explosion Network, or just search for Explosion Network, and I'm sure you'll find it by scrolling through all the search results for that. If you like movies, check out our fortnightly movie and TV podcast titled What Do You Want to Watch?, where Ash hosts it and asks less questions that lead to no answers. And all those places as well, you can check out Explosion Network for all our great content. Of course, explosionnetwork.com. You can follow the Explosion Network on Twitter at ExplosionPod. You can follow me on Twitter at Villadil, VAVALADIL. You can follow Ash on Twitter at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEYHOBLEY. You can follow Sheree on Twitter at Shreya Corner, CHERICORNO. Thank you for joining us on today's review discussion. Pika pika!